Hi, so what you have in front of you are 5 different sizes of air fryers. So from the left to right, this is 6 quart, 5 quart, 4 quart, 3 quart, and 2 quart. And what I'm going to do is compare the sizes, but also the countertop space, and give you some buying tips. So let me go ahead and basically talk about the countertop space here. So you'll notice all of them are basically the same as far as the countertop space. You might have the 2 quart and you might think it is slightly smaller and it takes up less space, but that is actually not the case. So if you're gonna just get a air fryer, just get the bigger one, just get the 6 quart one, because they take up entirely the same exact countertop space here. And so you're really talking about here how much food you want to put into each tray and pan. So let me go ahead and just zoom in here and show you the difference between a 6 quart, 5 quart, and 4 quart here. And you'll notice that they are very similar. And in fact, the reason why I like the square ones is that they actually maximize the countertop space with the space that you're gonna put the food. So the reason why is that the square ones actually have the edges where you could actually put the food, whereas the round one, this particular Ninja one is a round one, actually takes away from the space, the food space, because it has the rounded edges versus the square edges. But then it takes exactly the same amount of countertop space. So here, with the 4 quart and the 3 quart, you can see, in fact, not only the 3 quart actually seems bigger than the 4 quart. So just keep that in mind also. So the other thing I'm going to show here is, the depth and also the width, and why that matters. So now, just comparing the 3 smaller sizes, the 4, 3, and 2 quart, is even with the 2 quart, you'll notice that it's really 3/4 the size of the 3 quart and the 4 quart, but at the same time, it is also 3/4 the size of the 6 quart. So as far as the width and the depth, it really doesn't matter that it's smaller, because it just takes up the same amount of room. Now, the other thing I want to mention is you'll notice some of these have flat tops. And I find that very convenient, because you could actually put food and stuff on top of it. The tops themselves do not heat or get warm. It might get slightly warm, but not warm enough to melt anything. So I like putting food or a plate or something on top of it. And so this instant vortex, and let me go ahead and actually tell you what's here. So on the left here, I have the Instant Vortex, and that's made by the Instapot makers. This is Insignia, which is made by Best Buys. This is your Ninja brand, and this is your Nuwave Brio, and this is Emerald. So when I was talking about the flat tops, you notice with these flat tops, you can put food and stuff on it. Whereas with the Ninja here, there's actually a fan and exhaust that comes out from there, so you can't put anything on top of it, but also it's not even enough where you could put a plate on top of it without it falling off, whereas these flat tops are made for that. Not necessarily made for that, but they're stable enough for that. And then you have the small quarts where the buttons are on the top, so again, it takes away from the functional aspect of it. So the second tip is really that you should just get the flat top ones and the square ones. And now talking about the pricing. So all 5 of these, believe it or not, are around the same price. You could get any of these for 50 bucks, except for the small one. That one you could get for 19 bucks. But any of these at any point in time will be on sale for 50 bucks throughout the year, or every other month. So the Instant Vortex I got for 50 bucks, 55 bucks. Same with the Insignia. The Ninja here is a little bit more expensive. It's like 55 bucks with coupons and everything. The Nuwave Brio, you can basically get it for that same price. So it's not about the price, it is about the functionality. So going through the functionality, all of these cook the same. And it makes sense that they cook the same because in reality, all they are is a heating plate at the top with the fan blowing down on the food. So just keep that in mind, is because they don't really have that big a difference or advantage. Now, the only other thing that is different from all of these is that the Ninja itself is actually ceramic instead of Teflon. So if you're concerned about the Teflon and the chemicals that go in the Teflon, you might want to just get the Ninja. So just keep that in mind because the Ninja itself is actually ceramic coated. Now let me go ahead and show you the pan and the tray of each one of these. So starting with the Instant Vortex here. So you notice the Instant Vortex here is actually analog, partly manual. It has a nice, neat interface to it because you actually do turn the knob. So if I'm choosing the time, I turn a knob to set it. If I choose the temperature, same thing. I turn the knob and then I hit start. Now, just to give you a sense of how noisy this is, I'm going to start with the noise. But they're all around the same sort of noisiness. So just keep that in mind, is when it's cooking, this is how it sounds. It sounds like a wind tunnel. And all of these, now you're probably wondering why. Let me cancel this. You're probably wondering why I have 5 of these. I actually get these as gifts, and I'm gonna actually repackage them back in a box and give it to my family members. So, I actually bought these as gifts. Once you buy one for one family member, you sort of have to buy it for, every other one. So that's why I have 5 of these. But going back onto the topic here is so this is analog. This is digital. So let me go through actually the interface of these first. So they all have their own little gimmicky things. So you could see here, that's the preset. It rotates to the different presets. That was French fries, cake, bacon, bread, drumsticks, meat, fish, and manual. So this is the same exact thing. And let me just give you a sense of, so just giving you a sense of basically the buttons here. So that's the timer. And once you have that, you could just turn it on. And let me scoot over here. And you could see just the sound of this. Same exact sound. And as the other one, I'm just going to turn this off. And the other thing I'm going to do is actually go through how this looks, but also explain to you why some of these have advantages over the other ones. So this particular one is the Ninja. And while this particular one is winding down. So Ninja here is the only one that doesn't have the touch. So these are actually buttons here. So it has the reheat, the dehydrate, the roast, the air fry. Let me zoom in here. And so you are setting the time and temperature here. So if I do the air fry. Now the other thing I wanted to mention about all of these is every single one of these need a burn-in. So you'll have to burn this in three times to 4 times, maybe 5 times. What I mean by the burn-in is that when you initially use it, it's going to have a rubbery smell to it when it burns off that rubbery smell, either from the heating element or whatever. So just keep that in mind. You'll find a lot of Amazon reviews that will say it has that chemical smell to it. Well, all of these have that, so it's just the nature of the manufacturing process. So just keep that in mind. That's really nothing. You could ignore those comments that are all over Amazon. So I'm gonna turn on and start this. So just double checking there. And I am going to, simply start it. And you could hear that this one, it sounds the same, So this has the exhaust at the top and also in the back. It also has a little sticker here that reminds you what the temperatures are, unlike the other ones that has the preset. But the truth is when you're cooking your particular dish, you'll remember the settings. The first time you do it, it won't be perfect. So it's really by experience that you're gonna set the time and temperature anyway. So it doesn't really matter what the presets are or whether it has the presets. Now I'm gonna, power this off. And now here is the Nuwave Brio. So the Nuwave Brio is probably the worst of all of these. And it's kind of odd because there's people that tout these as the best. I don't find that to be the case. I actually find the 6-quart bigger ones like the Instant Vortex to be the best, mainly because it holds more food and it cooks the same out of all of these. They all cook the same. So, if you're looking for price or you think there's a difference, there's really no difference. Now, there is the time and temperature for this. So this is rather simplistic. It does have the labels at the top. And once again, you're setting this, you're pushing the start, and you could hear that, this is just the preheat. So when it's preheating, it's gonna sound a little bit lower than when the fan really kicks in. So, just keep that in mind. Now I'm gonna pause this and, turn it off. So this is also touch, notice. And push it again to turn it off. Now this is an analog one. This is the 2-quart one. Now, I suppose there is a big difference between the countertop space between this and that, but keep in mind this is 3/4 the width of that anyway. So, and this is a 3-quart, but then it's basically the same size as the 5-quart and the 6-quart. So, what are you saving there as far as countertop space? Not much. All right, so now for this particular one, for this particular one, it is analog. You just twist it. Now, it really doesn't matter whether it's analog or digital. The truth is that these aren't really all that precise to begin with the temperature, right? So once again, it is basically based on experience. Whatever you're cooking is whatever you're gonna set these things at, and they're gonna be different for each one of these anyway. So it is really whatever dish you're cooking, you'll have from experience, you'll know what to set it as. Now I'm just gonna turn this on here. So I'm gonna set this and, turn it on. And notice that the fan's kicking in. Now the biggest disadvantage of this is that you can't turn it off. So I suppose there is a disadvantage of this, is you can't just turn it off. Now this knob, I could turn it all the way back to the off, but it's sort of like forcing the mechanism, so you don't really necessarily want to do that. I guess you can do that if you wanted to. I have done that in the past, by turning it off like that. So, that's the 2-quart one. Now I do want to go over the trays themselves. So you'll notice this is the 2-quart, and I will go through here with the 3-quart one, and you will notice this is what I mean by the rounded edges versus the square edges, is that you get much more space and a good balance between the countertop space and the space where you put the food, because the edges are, all corners versus rounded off. So just keep that in mind. This is the 3-quart and the 2-quart one. Now the 2-quart one, they always have a drip pan. So there's 2 styles. One is that, there's a drip pan, and then there's another style like the Brio where the whole thing comes out. I prefer the drip pan because they're easier to clean. They don't really make that big a difference as far as the cooking. The reason why these things are the way they are is because it thinks it could circulate the air a little bit better. I don't find that to be the case. The other thing about this is you'll notice this is 4 inches deep. So if you're going to look for something, you want to look for something that's wide and not deep, because you don't want to stack the food on top of each other. That does not have the right amount of circulation, air circulation, that crisp all the sides of the food 360 degrees. So you know, you really want something wider instead of deeper, because if you stack food up on top of each other, they actually get more soggy than they do get fried. So that's the 2 quart, and here's the 3 quart. So what I mean by the way this comes out is you'll notice this has an eject, and this has a tray within a tray. Now this Brio one, people are right that this does flake. I have not had that experience, but I could actually see it flaking. So I totally do not like the Brios for that reason. I got this Brio because I saw a review that says it was the best, but having looked at all 5 of these, I actually do not believe it's anywhere close to being the best. So I'm gonna push the eject here, and I'm gonna take this pan out, and you'll notice how, if you were up front in person, you'll see how little food you could actually put into this. It's actually comparable to the 2 quart. So whereas the pan is huge compared to the amount of food you could put in. And I noticed that doesn't really come across that well in the video itself, but trust me, in person, it is not a good bang for the buck as far as having these tray within a tray. So I would avoid the trays within a tray and just have the drip pan for that reason. I get it that they think that the fan blowing down would actually enter these sides and come up, but I don't find that to be the case. It will kick back in even in those drip pan style ones. So this is the tray within a tray for the Nuwave. And as far as the Ninja, so the Ninja here has the ceramic. So this is what's unique about the Ninja, is that it is ceramic coated. So it is not Teflon. So if you're very paranoid, you know, just get the ceramic coating. And this is also what I mean by wider than deeper. So the Ninja is 4.5 inches deep, which is a ½ inch more deep than everything else. So you know, maybe it fits the same amount as a square 4 quart, but in reality, it doesn't cook as well because you're stacking things on top of each other instead of wider and across. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Now, I do want to show you this along with the Brio. So now you get a sense of what I mean here. This is supposed to be a 3 quart, right? And this is supposed to be a 4 quart, but they basically look the same. And this is what I mean by the rounded edges versus the square edges, is that the rounded one, you can't put as much across. You know, you could put the same amount on top of each other, but what makes it a little bit more even during the cooking is if you could spread it out across the width and not on top of each other. So this is what I mean by square versus round. Let me just put this back here and move on to the 5 quart. So the 5 quart, now this is interesting here, is that the 5 quart and the 6 quart are exactly the same size, just exactly the same size here. And they probably come from the same exact factory too, because style-wise and build-wise, they're exactly the same. If I turn the backs, you could see they're exactly the same. Only the facades and the electronics, as far as the digital versus analog, is slightly different. Now, the reason why this is 5 quart is because it has that style where it is a tray within a tray. And this one here, you could see this is designed where there's slits on the side. So if I take out the safety and I eject the tray, and these are also harder to wash too, which is why I don't like them. So you could see this tray, it is designed to circulate the air a little bit better. But once again, from my experience, there is no difference between these and the drip pan ones. And this one is marketed as a 5 quart because it's a tray within a tray. So you could see here, there it says like 5 quart, whereas this particular one is a 6 quart one. So And let me pull out, let me pull out the Insta Vortex one and show you side by side what exactly I mean. So you notice that this is the same exact width. In fact, they're the same exact size as far as the pan. It is 9 3/4 by 9.5, and yet, you know, this one is marketed as a 6-quart and does fit a lot more, and this one is marketed as a 5-quart. That's because this is a, you know, pan within a pan when this is just a drip tray. So I find these to be a lot better, you know, because this fits more and it's easier to clean and it cooks the same as these. You know, I get the reason behind the design of the slits on the side, but in reality, I don't think it actually has that same effect, or the intended effect that the design, you know, should. So if it does, it's very marginal, and I can't even tell the difference. But you could see how these would be harder to clean. And I do want to compare this to the Ninja round one, and once again, you can see, all right, this is a 5-quart and this is 4-quart, and yet, you know, this fits so much more than this other one, you know. So just keep that in mind, that it does fit so much better than the other ones. It's so much bigger. And then if I look at the countertop space, they are basically relatively the same. So you know, I think that's all I wanted to go through. I hope this helps, and you know, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.